The hillside had been saturated for 11 days. 11 days of rain, not the gentle kind, but the relentless kind that soaks into the earth until the earth can hold no more. The residents of the Encosta Verde neighborhood in southern Brazil knew this rain. They had seen it before. They had not seen what came next. At 3:22 in the morning, the hillside moved. Not all at once, in sections, one after another, each section pulling the next, like a zipper opening in the earth. 14 houses on the upper slope came down in 40 seconds. Marcus was in one of them. Duke was beside him. Duke was always beside him. Marcus was in one of them. Duke was beside him. Duke was always beside him. Marcus was 36 years old, a civil engineer who had spent 12 years working on slope stability projects across Brazil. He knew the geology of hillsides the way other people know their own faces. He knew what saturated soil looked like. What it did, what it became. He had been monitoring the hill behind his neighborhood for 2 weeks. He had filed a report. He had made calls. He was supposed to follow them the next morning. Duke had been with Marcus for 7 years. A golden retriever, large amber gold, with the particular patience of a dog who has lived with a worried man and learned to absorb the worry. He slept at Marcus's feet when Marcus worked late. He had an instinct for when Marcus needed him close. That instinct had never failed. He had filed a report. He had made calls. He had not moved his family. They were with his mother in another city. He was supposed to follow them the next morning. Duke had been with Marcus for 7 years. He had an instinct for when Marcus needed him close. That instinct had never failed. Marcus woke at 3:19 a.m., not to a sound, to a feeling. A vibration in the earth beneath the house, so subtle that most people would have slept through it. Marcus did not sleep through it. Duke was already standing at the foot of the bed, already alert, already facing the window that looked toward the hill. Marcus had 3 minutes. He did not know this. He knew the feeling in the earth, and he knew what it meant, and he moved. He grabbed his phone. He grabbed his keys. He called to Duke. Duke was already at the bedroom door. They reached the front door of the house at 3:21 a.m. Marcus opened it. He looked up the hill. He saw the hill moving. He had 1 second to understand what he was seeing. Then the sound arrived. Not a roar, a low, massive grinding sound like the earth clearing its throat. He ran. He ran for the street. Duke ran beside him. He made it 14 meters. The wave of mud and debris caught him from behind, moving faster than he had calculated, faster than the models predicted. It did not take him all the way. It took him down and covered him, a partial burial from the waist down, his upper body above the surface. He was face down in the mud. He could not move his legs. He could hear the slide continuing around him, the sounds of his neighborhood disappearing. And then, very close, Duke. The dog had not been caught. He was lighter, faster, and had somehow stayed at the edge of the flow. He reached Marcus within seconds. He began to dig. Duke dug, not the digging of play, the digging of absolute necessity. His front paws working at the mud around Marcus's waist, his shoulders driving into it. The mud was thick and heavy, and it did not want to give. Duke did not stop. Marcus tried to help. His arms were above the mud, but his hands could find no purchase. He talked to Duke. He kept talking. He told Duke he was doing well. He told Duke to keep going. He said, "Good boy," over and over. "Good boy, good boy, good boy." He could feel Duke's paws against his side through the mud, the contact of something alive and working. He talked to Duke. He kept talking. The rain had not stopped. It came down on Marcus's face and hands and the back of Duke's working neck. The hillside around them was unrecognizable. Where houses had been debris fields, where the street had been mud. He focused on Duke's paws against his side. He focused on his own breathing, in, out, in, out. He was a civil engineer. He knew that the slide had likely triggered emergency alerts. He knew that rescue teams would come. He knew the protocols. He also knew that it was 3:30 in the morning and the hillside was still moving in places and the teams would need time. He needed to be above the mud when they arrived. He needed Duke to keep digging. Duke kept digging. 12 minutes after Marcus was buried, Duke's digging had created enough space around his left hip that Marcus could feel movement in that leg. Not freedom, the possibility. He pushed. He and Duke worked together, Marcus pushing from inside, Duke pulling and digging from outside. It took 9 more minutes. 21 minutes after the mud took him, Marcus pulled his left leg free. 3 minutes after that, the right. He lay on top of the mud, face up, breathing. Duke lay beside him immediately, pressed against his side, his wet golden fur against Marcus's mud-covered jacket. Neither of them moved for 2 minutes. They simply breathed. The rescue team found them at 4:08 a.m., 46 minutes after the slide. Marcus was on his feet, barely leaning on Duke, but on his feet, when the team's lights found them. The team lead said afterward that the image of the man and the dog standing in the debris field, covered in mud, the dog pressed against the man's leg. It was the first thing in that terrible night that looked like survival rather than loss. Marcus had a fractured left ankle from the initial impact of the mud. He had hypothermia beginning. He would recover completely. Duke had cuts on both front paws from the digging. They healed within 2 weeks. He did not stop walking on them for a single day. Marcus moved his family to a different neighborhood, on flat ground. He still works in slope stability, more urgently now, with the particular knowledge of someone who has been inside the thing he studies. He says the 3 minutes between waking and the slide were the most important 3 minutes of his life. He says he would not have had those 3 minutes without Duke. Duke woke before him. Duke was already facing the hill. Duke had felt the vibration before Marcus did. Marcus had been monitoring that hill for 2 weeks. Duke had been monitoring Marcus. That is the difference between a sensor and a companion. A sensor tells you what the ground is doing. A companion tells you when to move. Duke still sleeps at Marcus's feet when he works late. He still follows him from room to room in the evenings. He still has the instinct for when Marcus needs him close. On the night of the landslide, that instinct was already 3 seconds ahead of the instruments. It always is. It always is. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to Bound to Survive. A new story every week.